What happens when the man who stood beside Lionel Messi before the world even knew his name is suddenly gone? For millions of football fans, Lionel Messi is a legend. The player who won the World Cup, collected Ballon d'Ors, broke records, and became one of the greatest footballers in history. But before all of that, there was a small boy from Rosario, Argentina, and there was his father, Jorge Messi. And now, after decades of being part of his son's extraordinary journey, Jorge Messi has died at the age of 68. His death was confirmed after he passed away in Rosario, Argentina, following a prolonged illness. But the story behind this loss goes much deeper than the headline. Because to understand who Jorge Messi was, you have to go back to the beginning of Lionel Messi's story, when there was no fame, no millions of fans, and no guarantee that this unusually talented young boy would ever become a professional footballer. Lionel Messi was born in Rosario in 1987, and football quickly became a major part of his life. His father, Jorge, had also been connected to football and worked as a chemical technician and steelworker. When Lionel was a child, his talent became impossible to ignore. But there was a serious problem. Messi was significantly smaller than many other children his age, and doctors diagnosed him with a growth hormone deficiency. The treatment was expensive, and for his family, finding a way to support that treatment became a major challenge. Lionel continued developing as a footballer at Newell's Old Boys in Rosario, but eventually, his family began looking toward Europe for a bigger opportunity, and that decision would change football forever. In the year 2000, when Lionel was just 13, he traveled to Spain for a trial with FC Barcelona. Imagine what that meant. A 13-year-old boy leaving Argentina and traveling across the Atlantic to prove himself to one of the biggest football clubs on the planet. Jorge Messi was there throughout that process. Barcelona eventually decided to take the risk and brought Lionel into its youth system. From that point, the boy from Rosario began a transformation that nobody could have predicted. He progressed through Barcelona's academy, developed at an extraordinary speed, and eventually reached the first team. In 2004, Lionel Messi made his official senior debut for Barcelona, and then the numbers started to become unbelievable. Goals became records, records became trophies, trophies became history. Messi won domestic titles, Champions League trophies, and multiple Ballon d'Or awards. But while the world watched Lionel Messi on the football pitch, Jorge Messi was working mostly behind the scenes. He became his son's representative and played an important role in negotiations, contracts, and business affairs. That meant Jorge was involved in some of the biggest professional decisions of Lionel's career. Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, and eventually Inter Miami, all became chapters in Messi's professional journey, and Jorge remained involved in the business side surrounding his son. But his story was not without controversy. In Spain, Lionel and Jorge Messi were convicted in a tax fraud case in 2016, and both received suspended prison sentences, along with financial penalties. It became one of the most difficult periods of Messi's career away from the football pitch. Yet Jorge remained an important figure in his son's professional life. Then came one of the biggest moments in Lionel Messi's entire career: the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Argentina reached the final against France, and after one of the most dramatic finals in World Cup history, Messi finally lifted the trophy that had been missing from his career. For years, critics had used the absence of a World Cup title to question his place among football's greatest players. That argument ended in Qatar. Messi became a world champion. But even after achieving almost everything possible in football, the relationship with his father remained part of his life. And then came 2026. Earlier this year, questions began appearing about Jorge Messi's health. His family confirmed that he was undergoing medical treatment and asked people not to speculate about his condition. Importantly, the family did not publicly disclose the specific illness. That distinction matters because much of what circulated online about his health was never officially confirmed. During the 2026 World Cup, Messi also experienced an emotional moment that attracted enormous attention. But he did not publicly say that the moment was caused by his father's illness, so it would be wrong to present that as a confirmed fact. What we do know is that Jorge was dealing with health problems while his son continued his football career. Argentina went all the way to the 2026 World Cup final, with Messi still leading the team at the age of 39. But Argentina eventually finished as runners-up, and shortly afterward, the Messi family received devastating news. On Friday night, August 7th, Jorge Messi died at the age of 68 in Rosario after a prolonged illness. Reuters reported that he had spent his final months moving between medical treatment and his family home, surrounded by his wife Celia and his children Rodrigo, Matias, and Maria Sol. Lionel Messi was expected to return to Rosario for a private wake, bringing him back to the city where his entire story had started. And the reaction from the football world was immediate. FC Barcelona expressed its condolences. Newell's Old Boys remembered Jorge. Real Madrid also sent condolences, while the Argentine Football Association announced that Argentine football would honor him with a minute of silence and black armbands. But there is something important about Jorge Messi's story that can easily be forgotten. He was not simply the father of a famous footballer. For decades, he was part of the machinery behind one of the greatest sporting careers ever created. He helped navigate the difficult years before Lionel became famous. He traveled with him when he was a child,